Welcome to The Pillars, a podcast of the 363rd ISR Wing of the United States Air Force. I'm Dr. Jerry.
I'm Dr. Reed.
And I'm Sergeant Joe.
And today we're going to be talking about a fascinating topic, spring cleaning.
Yay!
My favorite time of the year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have this guttural, just visceral reaction to those words paired together because there's a connotation that it's this big burdensome thing and you have to deep clean your entire domicile and get rid of a bunch of stuff, and hey, maybe that's your bag, maybe that's what you want to do, but it doesn't have to be this ugly elephant in the room. It's something that you can actually tackle just a little bit, pieces at a time. We're going to talk about how to do that, but also can make you feel really good.
Yeah.
Not just in the action, but after you've completed it.
Some sensitivity is perhaps warranted here at the outset. I want to acknowledge that it is. This spring cleaning can seem like an onerous task. And, here we are, we're just coming out of the winter, and so we're kind of shaking off that hibernation funk. And some of us may actually be experiencing some symptoms of depression from, whether that's a seasonal thing or it has to do with low levels of vitamin D, whatever the case may be. It's a condition that affects about 20 to 25% of us. And a condition like depression or anxiety can really make even simple cleaning tasks seem quite onerous. So.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was hoping we could talk a little bit about why it is we have this idea of spring cleaning. Why does it have to happen in the spring? And I think that there's something to turning the corner, getting into a different phase or a stage in the year that signifies life, new life, rebirth. And with that comes, I guess, a reinvigorating energy to start anew or start fresh. Just kind of like our arbitrary turn of the new year, New Year's Day. Same type of concept.
Yeah, I know for me, when spring comes around, I get the itch to purge. I feel like we've collected so much as fall happens and Christmas time comes, right? And you're getting new gifts and there's old toys and there's just...
You got 3 back-to-back holidays. And
Exactly, and then now you're putting away winter clothes, right? So you have all these jackets that don't fit anymore, and so that's really the time that my kids and I, we go through our clothes, we go through their toys. My daughter holds on to everything. She has an emotional attachment to everything. I have an emotional attachment to nothing. And so spring can be a very high tension time because she already knows this is my favorite toy, Mom, and I'm okay, so we're gonna donate it.
Spring is the beginning of the end.
Yeah, right. So my kids are kind of in tune with this, we got to get it. I either got to put it somewhere where it belongs or it might end up in the donate.
And I think that's the challenge when it comes to purging, is you're looking at things either from a utilitarian aspect or from emotional significance point of view.
Yep.
And sometimes we hold on to things that are way past their point of utility just because they have that sort of emotional connection.
Yeah, like fat, for example.
Yes. Well, if you weren't going to say it, I was.
So I hold on to fat well beyond its utility. I was remarking to my wife in the kitchen the other day. I set goals with the best of intentions around New Year's, just like I think a lot of people do. But we'd come back from a walk on one of the local trails, and I was just saying, gosh, my body just finally syncs up with my brain right around springtime, as I'm coming out of hibernation, as it were. My body is just, the energy is picking up, and sometimes I'm not ready to let go of that fat until the springtime. So, and I want, that fat or that funk, that clutter that kind of builds up in our lives, whether it's, it's stuff laying around the house, that has a way of kind of clinging to us as we go to work and as we move in and out of and traverse relationships with people, whether it's at work or, our romantic relationships or just our social relationships. We kind of have a way of carrying that funk with us into those spaces. And so cleaning up, maybe it's an overhaul or maybe it's just some tidying up, can really have an impact on how we present ourselves in those spheres.
Absolutely, and there's a biological, or I should say neurological reason for this as well. Clutter in and of itself can be overwhelming because it's a lot of diverse stimuli. And so when you're seeing that regularly, your brain is regularly processing that, and it's not unlike when we're really anxious and we're processing a lot of different thoughts and emotions constantly. It can seem stressful and overwhelming. And so when you're dealing that within your proximal environment, it can be overwhelming and stressful too, just sitting there and just being present.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you're working a 10, 12-hour shift, right, and you're going and you're doing that grind, and then you go home, which is supposed to be your relaxation place, and you have laundry on the couch, or there's dishes in the sink, you know, or there's just stuff that we never got to. We still have boxes from Christmas, or, you know, you can't decompress. You can't relax because your brain is triggering you saying, we have a lot still to do.
I am sure that in our listening audience right now, there are people that are having near panic attacks.
Right? Yeah, totally. I know I am.
And they're thinking, all right, Airmen Resiliency Team, just come over to my apartment and, you know, clean it for me. So that's not actually going to happen. But your friends here,
right?
Your friends here at the ART know that sometimes your life and your apartment needs a good, deep cleaning. But from a practicality standpoint, we also want to acknowledge that there are times when you'll probably settle for the appearance of clean.
Yep.
And, you know, some of those nice carpet lines will do you a lot of good. So we've got some actual practical tips to help you in your spring cleaning efforts.
And not necessarily take all your toys and throw them in the closet so that your parents will think you cleaned your room. These are these are things that actually I think will do more than give the appearance of clean, but make you feel a little bit better.
Touche.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about pacing ourselves.
Okay.
Yes.
We are, well, I should say we. I'll own this. I'm notorious, especially when I see my teenager kind of lying around on a Saturday and I've got enough caffeine in me where I've got some energy to do something. I want everyone to get up out of bed and just join me right now in a Herculean kind of cleaning effort. And that usually goes over like a lead balloon. So when we talk about pacing ourselves, we want to recognize that Rome wasn't built in a day. Your house doesn't necessarily need to get cleaned in a day either. You can start small. You can literally start with anything. And, you know, I even recommend quitting in the middle of things, or maybe taking a break or pausing in the middle of a project. It leaves a little bit of a hook for you to come back to when you get another burst of energy. And then when you quickly complete what you started but took a break from, then you have this kind of motivation to jump into another task, you know, if you've got the time to do it.
And this is good advice for any large project, is just to work on a little bit at a time and do that with intentionality. You're only going to say, I'm going to devote 15, 20 minutes to this, and I'm going to go do something else. That little bit over time accumulates rather than waiting until you have this huge chunk of time, which, let's be honest, rarely ever comes around to try to accomplish these things. So how you may practically approach this is, I'm just going to clean this one area, or I'm gonna focus on this one room and that's it. Or I'm only going to clean for 15 minutes and then I'm going to go do something else.
But sometimes we get stuck, don't we?
We do get stuck.
When we think, God, I've got to do this all today. It has to happen today. We sort of set ourselves up for failure.
Yeah, the goal is to set yourself up with like SMART, realistic, right? We have our little acronym SMART goals. It even applies here for cleaning. If you're not willing to or can't for time to take all the dishes and scrub all the counters and the cabinets and then put everything away, then don't create such anxiety around a project if you don't have time for it. I don't ever feel like cleaning. So I can't wait till I feel like cleaning because it may never happen. But do I enjoy a clean house? Oh, yes, I do, right? So I started changing up my statements. And instead of like, I don't feel like cleaning today, let's just sit on the couch. It's like, I want to feel productive today, so I'm going to go do the dishes.
That sounds, so leads me to the next point here. We rarely have or feel like cleaning, and sometimes we don't feel like going to the gym, and it's about energy. It's about the perceived energy that we've got to allocate to those tasks. And I would just say, don't squander that energy. Be very careful with it. Guard it, because it may be a limited quantity. So
it is a limited resource.
It is a limited resource. So you don't spend it on things like wiping down the pipes underneath your sink or
Right.
decrumbing your toaster, things that just
Into
are
every nook and cranny.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So finding where are you going to get the most bang for your buck? Focus on the low-hanging fruit. If you have more energy after you hit that stuff, perfect. You can move on to the next task or not. Take a break. Reward yourself for doing something good.
Yeah.
That's great advice. But I like you had an idea, or you were talking about how you try to involve your kids in this, almost like make it like a challenge.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's see how much we can clean up in the next 5 minutes. Go.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I have used every Jedi mind trick in the book that I know of anyway to get my kids motivated. And make cleaning a team sport. Don't make it drudgery. You can make it fun. Flip on the radio, listen to some of your best music, dance around, make fun of it. Everyone can get involved. And one of the ways that you can sell it to kids is, in my house, we call it the 10-item shuffle or the 10-item boogie or something like that. You just tell the kids, like, hey, go grab the laundry basket, put 10 items of dirty clothes in there, go. You've got 30 seconds to do it or something like that. Or pick up 10 items of trash or put 10 items back where they belong. Then they're not saddled with this idea that, we're going to be here forever.
It's just 10.
It's
takes
just 10
minutes.
right?
Yeah.
You can do that throughout a day, and then it doesn't seem like you're just stuck in this drudgery. So
Yeah. We have a reward system. We do.
Oh, okay.
So like, I don't ever make the kids compete against themselves, but it's like, if you two can get your rooms perfect, well, never perfect, and I don't use the word perfect, but clean, right, then XYZ, right? And so there's a reward system built in, and so they know, like...
But clean isn't nebulous. Like there are specific tasks
Yes,
associated
they
with
know
that.
exactly
like make
what
your
that
bed,
means.
put up
Yes.
your toys. We reward our kids, right? We have sleep hygiene behaviors for our kids. We structure and schedule their days. But then we lose that as adults because... freedom? I don't understand why, but we all can still benefit from these things.
Yeah, reward yourself, I think, is the message there. The good feelings that come from cleaning up and getting yourself organized or decluttered, those should be self-sustaining, but for some folks they're not, and they need a little external incentives, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about barriers to kind of getting started with this work. I mean, sometimes...
Because I had something to say on this.
I mean, sometimes what we're looking at, and it may in actuality not be a massive undertaking that's in front of us, but gosh, it can feel like that sometimes.
It sure can.
What emotionally can stand in the way for us starting this work?
One of my big barriers is, from the utilitarian standpoint, what if someday I need this, but also, this has some significant memories and emotions attached to it. And I recall those when I see this thing, and I want to remember and hold on to these things. But what's amazing? When I don't see those things, it's like they never existed in the first place. It's like they're gone. And my wife is the exact opposite. She is a purger.
Yeah.
And almost like, I'm like, you're cold-hearted. Like we had this conversation when 2 weekends ago we were going through and we're getting rid of a bunch of stuff. But she didn't have this emotional attachment to things, and it made her feel so much better to get rid of things. And we settled on a beautiful compromise, which was I could rest easy at night knowing that my old clothes, some of my kids' old toys, other things I've just not used in forever were potentially going to a good home. So we donated them all to one of the many nonprofit shelter locations in the area. And we're talking like bags and bags of clothes from our whole family, not just me. But that took a lot out of me. And you know what? I don't miss it.
Yeah.
I feel great having gone through and gotten rid of all that stuff. And it was a massive undertaking, but you know what I did? I focused on one drawer at a time. I was like, okay, right now I'm just going to go through one drawer, go through all this stuff, done. And I was like, that wasn't bad. I've got more energy, and so maybe I'll do another drawer. And just
I'm picturing Jerry standing in his bedroom, like trying to fit on his old Cub Scout uniform.
Yeah.
And
He's like, it still looks good, right, honey?
Guys, my old wrestling singlet from high school.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Well, coming back to this idea of emotions, did you have a thought?
I did. My thought was, when you get organized in your life, you get physically organized, mentally organized, emotionally organized, there comes a sense of control, and that can really help decrease the anxiety.
Yeah, but change is uncomfortable.
It sure
just
is.
by the very nature of it. And a lot of times, especially when it comes to spring cleaning, we find that we formed emotional attachments to certain objects.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're tied up in certain memories, and we feel like in letting go of that object, we're letting go of that emotion or that memory and whatever that significance of that thing is to us. And there's always that thought in the back of our mind that, oh, I may need this later, or I put so much effort or work into this, I don't want to get rid of it. But what's really refreshing is that once you get rid of that burden, so to speak, you feel so much better.
Yeah.
And so the transient feelings of guilt and shame you may have to deal with are only temporary.
I'm glad you brought that up, guilt and shame specifically. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that might be a barrier for a lot of people. You know, they may look around their house or their life and assess like, God, it's a shame that I didn't do something about this earlier. How did I let myself go, or how did I let this area of my house go for so long? And it can be a real barrier to change, and it may be a barrier to bringing people or resources in that could help bring about the change faster, because like, oh God, I don't want anybody else to see this.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to open yourself up to that vulnerability of thinking that maybe they're going to judge you, right?
But I think that's exactly what we have to do sometimes, is to be willing to be vulnerable and reflect that people may not be as judgmental as we think they're going to be. I think we are most of the time our own worst critic, and you know, it's interesting in psychology. Sometimes the thing you don't want to do is the thing you need to do the most in order to improve your life. And so I think actually bringing people in to assist you, helping you organize or declutter your life, may be the most helpful thing in these circumstances.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you are contemplating some big change, whether that's cleaning up around your house or you're looking at the dark recesses of your life and you think, I probably could use some tidying up there, you know, just recognize that a lot of feelings could come up as you start that process. And it may be worth the while to enlist the help of a trusted someone else who can help guide you through that process, whether that's a peer, a friend, or even a professional if needed.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for listening to The Pillars, the podcast of the 363rd ISR Wing. I'm Dr. Jerry.
I'm Sergeant Joe.
I'm Dr. Reed.
And have a great Air Force Day.